Hi, this is Mark Lehman from Merrymeeting Games, and I'm talking about how to play the game Cabin Fever from Merrymeeting Games. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about sixes and how sixes are used in the game. One important thing to remember about rolling sixes is that even though it is the highest number, it's probably the least desirable number that you can roll. And that's because in the game Cabin Fever, sixes, as you can see here, are worth 0 points. So basically a 6 is equal to a 0. And as you can see, I just rolled 3 sixes. Now normally a matching set of faces would allow me to continue my turn. But since I rolled 3 sixes all at once, that's a special condition rule called a squall. And when you roll 3 sixes or more, that requires the use of the cabin game piece. And what it means is that you are stuck in the cabin. So I rolled a squall, as you can see here. I am now stuck in the cabin. I take the cabin game piece. My turn is over, and I pass the dice to the next player. So what happens now is that I am stuck in the cabin until I dig out. I cannot score any points, either automatically or any other way, until I get out of the cabin. There are a few different ways you can get out of the cabin. One way is to dig out by scoring 100 points or more, which is very similar to digging out when you first start the game and you are snowed in. Once you dig out, you do not collect your points, you pass the dice, and then you start scoring on your next turn. You put the cabin away, and you can continue as normal. So I'm going to wait for my next turn to come around, and I'm going to attempt to dig out. Now, one way I could get out of the cabin is that somebody else rolls a squall, or some other condition happened that put somebody else in the cabin. Since there's only one cabin game piece, that game piece needs to be passed from player to player. So if somebody else gets put in the cabin, I'm out of the cabin, and I can start scoring as normal. But that did not happen. So now I have to attempt to dig out to get out of the cabin, which I'm going to try to get 100 points. And you can see I rolled a pair of sixes and a pair of fours and a 5. Well, sixes are null, and you can use sixes to build match sets to continue your turn, but in this case I'm going to cannibalize them to try to get my 100 points. So right now I have 2 4s. Since it's only a pair, it's only worth face value, so that's 8 points. I'm going to try to get that third 4 to make it times 10 to make it 120 points, thus digging me out. So let's see if I get it. And I don't, but I got another matching set so I can continue my turn. So now I'm going to try 4 of those 4s. If I get a 3, it's not going to be 100 points. But if I get a 4, I'll break the 100 points. So let's see. I did it. I have 120 plus 6. I have 126 points. So now I am dug out of the cabin. I put the cabin back in the middle of the table, pass the dice, and on my next turn I can start scoring again. And that's one of the ways you get out of the cabin. But what I'm really talking about now is what happens with sixes. So, anytime you roll 3 or more sixes, that's called a squall. And that's when you roll 3 or more at a time. So if I'm rolling on my initial roll, or rolling just 3 dice and I roll 3 sixes, that would be a squall. That would put me back in the cabin. One special condition with sixes, other than that, is on your opening roll, if you roll 5 of a kind of all sixes, that is called a nor'easter. And that does not put you in the cabin, but what a nor'easter will do is snows everybody in again, just like at the start of the game, and everybody needs to dig out before they can start scoring. The other special condition is on your opening roll, if you open with only a pair of sixes as your matching set. If I do that, my only option to score is to attempt something called a thaw. My other option would be to end my turn and pass a dice. But if I attempt on a thaw, to score on a thaw, if if I score, collect points, everybody at the table collects 50 points unless they're stuck in the cabin or snowed in. But to my benefit, I scored double normal values on these 3 dice. So potentially I could score as much as 300 points if I rolled 3 5s, if I built a match set of 3 5s. So let's say this was my opening roll, and I'm going to attempt for points, knowing that if I do score, everybody else will get 50 points. So I'll try it. I rolled another 6, which is nothing, and I can build a match there. So I could continue my turn, but what's going to happen is I'm only going to get times 2 face value on these 2 dice, which really isn't worth the 50 points. So, but I have to take it because I matched. I tried for a thaw. Once you try for a thaw, you got to take it all the way. So you either fail or you succeed. So if you try for a thaw, you got to go until you get points. So but you can't end your turn prematurely. And I do score. I have a match set. So normally this would only be worth 4 points, but since it's a thaw, it's worth double. So I get 8 points. It's kind of a low result, and everybody at the table gets 50 points except for myself. So that was to the benefit of everyone else at the table. But potentially I could have scored 300 points. So a thaw is a risk.